This screencast is about going from a Google Forms as a survey to using Google Forms as a quiz. So in our last screencast, we went over how to create a basic Google form and to treat it like a survey. We also modeled all the different styles of questions from multiple choice to drop down to linear scale, etc. All of those work for a survey, but we're going to talk about making this into a quiz that could be automatically graded. Okay, so I'm going to come and I'm going to have an untitled form. I'm going to start with that, and I'm going to call it quiz. Oops, there we go, quiz. And I'm going to make sure that's my title. And if I was starting my quiz from scratch, the very first thing I would do would be to come up over here to this gear. And that gear symbol is my settings. I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to just pause for a minute and go over our basic settings. Under general, it says collect email addresses. And we tend to actually like to do that. That way we can trace who filled out the form or the quiz. So that's really a good thing to check. Response receipts, that means that when someone takes the quiz or the survey, they get an email saying, thank you for taking the survey. I don't think we need that. We can restrict who has access to this to only people in AUSD, and that's always a good thing to use. Limit to one response. That means that people have to be in their Google accounts to do it, and they only get to answer once. And that's probably a good thing to check, because you don't want someone answering a survey question like 6 times. You also don't want a student, if we're going to turn this into a quiz, you don't want them taking the quiz 6 times. But that's up to you. Responders or respondents can edit after submission, meaning that they can go back in and change their answers. See summary charts and text responses. That's about what they can see after they're done. And I typically leave those unchecked because I don't want them editing themselves. The next tab is presentation. That's how the viewer or the responder would see things. Show progress bar, that's when you can see sort of how much is left, that little bar at the bottom. Shuffle question order, that would be maybe if you were giving a quiz and you would want to do that. Show a link to submit another response. So that would be if you let them do it more than once, but since we said they can only do it once, that's not even an option for us. And then there's a confirmation at the message at the bottom that's auto-generated, but you could have something like, thank you. And then it's this last tab right here that says quizzes that we're interested in today. And it's really just the very first thing. Make this a quiz. So change it from a survey to a quiz. So we would shuffle that on, switch it on. And when do you want the kids to see their grade? Right away or later in an email? And that's up to you or the teacher. And can they see their missed questions and correct answers? Again, you want to think about that. If this is a quiz that multiple kids are going to take, you probably don't want them to see their correct answers. Because then they could share that with someone else. Maybe you don't even want them to see their missed answers. If this is a more one-to-one thing and part of the process is doing something like test corrections, then maybe you would want them to see that. So I'll leave that on for right now, and then we hit save. And we'll notice that we have this new option over here of total points. That wasn't on our survey. So I'm going to just make one quick quiz question. And so I'll say, which of the following is the healthiest breakfast item? And I'm just going to make this multiple choice, and I'm going to say French toast. I'm going to say donuts. I'm going to say cereal, and I'll say yogurt. Okay, and so these are my multiple choice questions, right? I could have designed them in a different way, but I love multiple choice. And since I've turned on the quiz, I have this new option down here, answer key. So I click that and I look a little different for a second. This is where I tell how many points this question is worth. And I need to choose the correct answer. And I'm going to decide that yogurt's the right answer. So I green check it, right? And then I can go ahead and I can add another question. And we can see in the question that I just finished, it's worth 3 points and it's green in my teacher edition version because that's the right answer. I'll do that just one more time. So I'll say like, which is a good mid-morning snack? And maybe there's going to be more than one option for this. So I'm going to make it a checkbox and I'm going to say fruit. I'm going to say crackers. I'm going to say candy. What else would be a good option? A hard-boiled egg. That seems lovely. And what else would be super healthy? Carrot sticks. Okay, so those are my questions, and there's more than one possible response. So I'm going to remind myself that I'm going to come to the vertical ellipses, my peas in a pod as I call them, and I'm going to say mark all that apply, or all correct answers. And I'm going to come to my answer key, and I'm going to make this one worth, let's say, 3 points. So which are the right ones? Well, fruit is good, a hard-boiled egg, and carrot sticks. Right? I'm going to say crackers are not so good. So that's my 3 possible points. That means in order to get all 3 points, the person taking the quiz would have to select those 3 answers. And now that I'm done, I can go ahead and ask another question. So we notice up here that my total points is changing. And when I view it, right, and I forgot to ask for their name, but we'll go back to that. Which of the following is the healthiest breakfast item? It's worth 3 points. They would hopefully pick one, which is a good mid-morning snack. 3 points, mark all that, apply, and they would get to do more than one. And I'll go back to editing. So that's how we would set up a quiz straight from the beginning. I'm going to actually go into the quiz that I've actually already created. So I just switched to a different one. What's your first name? And you'll notice this is mighty similar to what we had before. Okay. And as I scroll through, we saw how to do the multiple choice, the answer key, the check boxes, and I would then do the answer key, right? And you can see which are the 2 that are the correct answers there. I have a drop-down menu item 1, and eggs would be the correct answer there. So I did my answer key for drop-down. So here's what a multiple choice grid would look like. Okay. And this one, we don't have the answer key marked yet. Let's see if we can do that. There we go. I did mark it. There it is. So then in my multiple choice grid, I marked when they should be eating these foods. And oops, I left that off. So I'm going to change that to a point. So each row gets a point for having a correct single answer. When I have a checkbox grid, same sort of thing. I would check all the possible answers and probably match that up for the number of points per row. That means the kids would have to match me perfectly, match my answer key perfectly. Down here, what is the key to healthy eating? That's a short answer. And you can actually have an answer key to short answer, which is a little bit weird. So usually you have to grade these sort of by hand. But if you're looking for a keyword like the word balance, you can put that in as the answer. You do need to think about that it's going to look for an exact match. So do you care if the kid has capitalized correctly? Maybe you want to give another choice. Maybe they're not going to spell it right. Balance. So what you would need to do if you're creating that answer key is come up with all the possible answers that a child could write. That's sometimes not so easy. And maybe that one's worth 2 points. My last one, paragraph, that you can't really have an answer key, right? Because everyone's going to write something different. The teacher would have to go in and grade that sort of by eye or by hand. Okay. So once again, I'm going to go into preview mode. You can see I've got my required fields, and those things don't have answer keys. I didn't put a point value for them. Some of my multiple choices were just worth 1 or 2 points. My checkbox, multiple choice checkbox grid was 6 points, and my checkbox grid was 20 points because it had more answers. And my healthy eating short answer was 10 points. When the student is done, they'll hit the submit button. And that turns it from a survey into a quiz. And again, the way that I did that was I went into my gear at the very, very beginning, and I selected and turned on quiz from here. And then as I went through, I assigned point values to everything.